So we're going to start our study of poetry today. We started our notes earlier in the class and you learned a little bit about the structure of a poem. Now you're going to learn a little bit about reading a poem. So this document, 4 strategies for successful poetry reading. Well, you have this up, and I also asked you to have the jigsaw puzzle up. We're going to go through the 4 strategies as we read the poem, the jigsaw puzzle. And we want you to do this for every poem that you read. Again, poetry is great. A lot of us like to write poetry to express ourselves or express a feeling or something that we've seen. But as a student, you'll be tested on poetry. And it's important that you understand both the structure and the poetic devices that are used to create poetry. So by using these 4 steps, you'll make sure you look for all the things you need to look for. So the first thing is we've created an acronym. And an acronym is when we give you letters that stand for something, and it's a memory device. So I'm going to give you the letters N, R, P, and F. And you're going to put those letters at the top of every poem you read. So we're going to go over to the jigsaw puzzle, and I'm going to go N, R, P, F. I like to make it red so I notice it when I look at a poem. Every single poem we read in class, I want you to write that to make sure that you do the steps. And then as we do them, we'll cross out those steps. Now let's go to the steps and see what they are. So N. N is number the verses and stanzas. It says write the number of each verse to the left of it, write the number of the stanza above it, and write with the verses listed in parentheses. Okay, so we're going to go back here. For a lot of poems, I will have this done for you. But at the beginning, I want you to get into the habit of doing it. So I'm going to make my stanzas in blue. I'm going to say 1. And we studied what stanzas and verses are. Stanzas are the paragraphs, right? 2. And we'll often ask you how many stanzas and how many verses there are. So there are 3 stanzas. And then I'm going to move my verses over here in front, and I'm going to do them in green. I'm going to say 1, 2. And here's how I really think this is the smart way to do it. I just put a bunch of 1s here. I just copy and paste them in, and then I go back and change them. Oops. And it messes with the poem a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this yourself. 3, once you get the hang of what I'm doing. 4, remember each sentence-like line in a poem is a verse. 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you need to stop this video and go do this, you should do it and then come back to me when you're done. 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 verses, and there are 3 stanzas. And if I asked you how many verses in each stanza, you would say 4. Okay? Very good. So the very first thing we do is number the stanzas and the verses. And that's your N. So we can actually go back here and we can cross out our N. I'm going to make it, we'll highlight our N in like black. How's that? So we know it's done. Okay, let's go back to our strategy. R. Read the poem once according to punctuation. Pay attention to punctuation. Pause at commas, dashes, semicolons, and ellipses. That's that ... Stop at end punctuation like periods, question marks, and exclamation points. And then this is probably the most important. Do not stop at the end of a line unless there is an end punctuation mark. It's important. Poets use punctuation carefully or choose not to use punctuation carefully. So I'll show you what I mean. This is a really good poem for this. So really, you have to read poems more than one time. The first time, it's really just to get the feel and the flow of the poem, not to really understand it. It almost always takes reading a poem 1, 2, or 3, or 4 times to really understand what it's saying. The first time we read a poem, it's just to get the flow of the reading correct. So, I'll read it to you. Jigsaw puzzle. My beautiful pictures of pirates and treasure is spoiled. Okay, notice how I didn't stop until the comma. I'm going to do it again. Jigsaw puzzle. My beautiful picture of pirates and treasure is spoiled, and almost I don't want to start to put it together. I've lost all the pleasure I used to find in it. There's one missing part. I know there's one missing. They lost it, the others, the last time they played with my puzzle. And maybe there's more than one missing. Along with the brothers and sisters who borrow my toys, there's the baby. There's a hole in the ship, or the sea that it sails on. And I said to my father, well, what should I do? It isn't the same now that some of it's gone. He said, put it together. The world's like that too. So reading according to punctuation is important because a poet often doesn't want you to stop at the end of a verse. They want you to keep going until the punctuation stops you. Okay? All right, so that would be reading. So we can now cross off our second step. We numbered it and we read it. Let's go see what P is. P is called paraphrasing. As you reread the poem, go back and read the poem again. You will find information you missed the first time and ask questions as you read. And paraphrase. Do you remember what paraphrasing means? I think we talked about this early in the year. It means putting it in your own words. So when we paraphrase, we're going to stop after each stanza. We're going to think about what the poem is saying, and we're going to try and put it in our own words. And I'm going to have you do that by putting a comment over here for each stanza. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop after each, and I'll paraphrase. You need to add these same paraphrasings to your own copy of the jigsaw puzzle. My beautiful picture of pirates and treasure is spoiled, and almost I don't want to start to put it together. I've lost all the pleasure I used to find in it. There's one missing part. Okay, so what do you think this is about? If you want to pause and write your own paraphrase and then come back and look at mine and see if yours is right, that would be great. All right, so what I think this is about, or what it is about, it's a child putting together a pirate puzzle, but there is a piece missing, right? My beautiful picture of pirates and treasure is spoiled, and I don't want to start to put it together. I've lost all the pleasure I used to find in it. There's one missing part. So he's very upset because, maybe that's better. A child putting together a pirate puzzle is upset because there is a piece missing. There we go. Okay, so we come down to our second stanza. Put our comment in. I know there's one missing. They lost it. the others the last time they played with my puzzle, and maybe there's more than one missing. Along with the brothers and sisters who borrow my toys, there's the baby. All right, why don't you stop the video and see if you can do a paraphrase, and then come back and check mine. What is this stanza saying? Okay, so this child is frustrated because he or she thinks that one of the brothers and sisters lost the puzzle piece. And I think that's a pretty common emotion. Do you guys have brothers and sisters? Do you have brothers and sisters that use your stuff and lose it? I know that happens in my house all the time. So I think that's a very, that's an emotion or a feeling that many kids can understand. Okay, feeling very frustrated. He has this puzzle or she has this puzzle and it's lost a piece. Okay, third stanza. Oh, do you need more time to copy that? I'll leave that there. There's a hole in the ship or the sea that it sails on. And I said to my father, well, what should I do? It isn't the same now that some of it's gone. He said, put it together. The world's like that too. Okay, try it again. If you want to read it again, but stop the video, put your paraphrase in, and then check it against mine. All right, so the first couple of verses. There's a hole in the ship or the sea that it sails on. He's talking about the piece that's missing in the puzzle, right? It could be a hole in the ship or the sea or the sky, but there's a hole in this puzzle, right? And so he asks his father for advice, and his father says, so what? It's missing a piece. Put it together. Continue to put it together. All right. So the child, I don't say child. The child asks his dad for advice. Dad tells him to play with the puzzle anyway. It is still okay. You know, just because a puzzle's missing one piece, it's still okay, right? All right, so there we go. We did a pretty good job. We paraphrased 3 stanzas. Make sure you have your paraphrasing down. You're going to have to do that with each of your poems. All right, so let's go make our P. We have now done our P. We've got one more step to do. Let's go check out what it is. F. F stands for find the terms. So we took some notes today on poem structure, stanzas and verses and that sort of thing. You're going to, over the next couple of days, you're going to be taking more notes on elements that you find in a poetic devices that you'll find in a poem. So little by little, I'm going to ask you to look for these things. It says go through all of the terms from the notes in your binder or in your, this is old, in your Google Doc. Mark them on the poem. Use sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch to understand and fully experience a poem. Determine the theme or the author's message from the poem. Okay, so let's go back and let's do our F. And right now we don't have that many terms that we know. So if you go to the bottom, I'm going to try and tell you which ones I want you to do. I want you to do speaker. I think we talked about speaker today. I want you to do theme, because we kind of know what theme is. Theme is the big idea. Just said that in the poem. So who do you think your speaker is? A speaker. Well, we said, I started each of my comments with the word a child, a child, a child. And that's good. The speaker, or the narrator in the poem, is a child. How old do you think this child is? And if you think of an age, I want you to have a backup. Who is probably somewhere between 8 and 11. And probably a boy. All right. So I say probably 8 and 11 because that's when I think kids get pretty frustrated with their younger brothers and sisters. Also, when putting a puzzle together might be something that they really like. And I say it's probably a boy because it's a pirate puzzle. That is not a good thing to decide that it's a boy. And I want you to be thinking about that. Is it a boy or is it a girl? How do you know? We do make judgments. A poet wants us to make judgments. So we might say it's a boy because it's a pirate puzzle. But I love pirates, so I could be putting a pirate puzzle together. So that's enough about your speaker. It wasn't enough just to say a child. I want you to think more. Are there clues in the poem to help you figure out who your narrator is? Okay. Theme of the poem. What's the big idea of this poem? So this child is putting together this poem. The important stanza is the third one. And when he asks his father for advice. And his father makes a statement, and it's kind of the message of the whole poem. There's a hole in the ship or the sea that it sails on, and I say to my father, well, what should I do? It isn't the same now that some of it's gone. He said, put it together. The world's like that too. So if you want to stop the video and try to think, and right here where it says theme of the poem, to put the big idea. What is the big idea? It's in those last 2 verses. Take a try at it. Stop the video, put the theme, and then come back and see what I put. All right, so I think he's kind of saying, you know, you've got missing pieces of a puzzle, and it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's going to be fine. And I think he's saying life is like that too. Life does not have, you don't have everything you need in life. There are things that are missing, but you don't just stop. Life is never going to be perfect, and we live and we like it. And a puzzle is just like that. So life is a lot like this puzzle. You don't always have every little thing that you need. It isn't perfect, but it is still okay. We live life even though it isn't perfect, and you can still enjoy a puzzle even though it is missing a piece and isn't perfect. So this poem compares life to a jigsaw puzzle, and that's the big idea. And there we did. We did our F. NRPF. The 4 steps of reading a poem. Now, maybe you saw this at the bottom. How am I going to remember these 4 steps? Well, NRPF, never read poetry fast. We take our 4 steps. Okay? So at the end, your poem should look like this. It should be labeled, it should have comments, and it should have these parts. All right, so next thing I want you to do is I want you to go into your, go into your shared folder, and there's another poem in there that I want you to do our steps with. It's called The Drinking Fountain, and hopefully you cross this one. And I want you to go ahead and do, up at the top, we have NRPF. I'll make it red for you guys. Okay, and I want you to do the 4 steps. And you can see I've left spaces for paraphrasing over here. And at the bottom, I've done the 3 things I want you to do. Number of verses and stanzas, the theme, and the speaker. Okay, and that's going to be your first assignment to show me that you understood what we did today. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.